The Canadian budget for 2025 and 2026 has just been released, and the least we can say is that this has provoked a vast majority of emotions to multiple people across the countries, notably when it comes to the project deficit. So it is why in this video I'll share with you what are the multiple measures and costs that were made by the government in this budget and how this could affect you in the future. But first, if this type of content interests you, make sure to join the North family by subscribing to the channel for only $0.0. So on November 4th, 2025, Minister of Finance and National Revenue François-Philippe Champagne has delivered the budget for Canada, which is called Canada Strong. In this budget that counts close to 500 pages, you can notably find the multiple measures and costs that are forecast by the Canadian government for the end of 2025 and the beginning of 2026. But in this video, to make it simpler for you to understand, I'll divide it throughout multiple phases. But before, if we look at the strategic approach made by the government, we can see that the budget has been built around two big anchors. First, the government is looking to balance day-to-day operating spending such as the routine government program costs with the revenues by 2028 and 2029. And secondly, they want to maintain a declining debt to GDP ratio to make sure that the situation will be sustainable for the future generations. It is why in this budget, you won't necessarily find the word expenses, but instead they'll be using the word investment because they are saying that they are right now investing massively for the future. Indeed, right now, the priority for the government is to shift the spending from a pure operation cost towards long-term infrastructure, productivity, housing, and industrial capacity, where it sets the goal of enabling over $1 trillion in total investments in public and private investments in Canada over the next 5 years. So as you can see, this is a lot of money that is set to be spent by the government over the next year. But now let's take a look at where exactly this money will go and what are the different measures about it. First, when it comes to investment and growth-oriented measures, it is important to note that the Canadian government at the moment is looking to find as much incentives as possible for the different businesses, notably when it comes to stronger tax incentives for scientific research and experimental development tax credit, as well as a measure that is named the productivity super deduction, which is an immediate expensive for items such as manufacturing, buildings equipment, and clean energy generation, with obviously the goal is to reduce as much as possible Canada's effective tax rate for different businesses. Obviously, the measures has the objective to keep the great businesses that we have over here and to attract new ones that would want to come invest in the country, especially when we have a country like the US that have a great fiscal advantages compared to Canada on certain aspects, and especially under Donald Trump leadership at the moment that has reinforced this momentum. Unfortunately, these fiscal benefits won't apply to the general population because we will remain and we will keep the same corporate and other taxes to our names, but there will still be certain niche taxes that might be removed in the next budget, notably luxury tax on different goods such as boats. Now, when it comes to another important aspects for Canadians, which is the housing problems that we currently have over here in Canada, the government in their latest budget has decided to broaden the role of the Canada's Infrastructure Bank, which is responsible to build and maintain great infrastructure in the country, with an extra $10 billion and to mandate expansion to accelerate infrastructure fast-track projects. So the goal of the government is clear that they want to invest more into housing and into building more quality infrastructure over the next couple of decades. But now you might be wondering, how does the government will be able to finance all of these projects? Well, first, they've already said their intentions to reduce spendings into their direct program expenses, which will involve workforce adjustments and attritions in the public service to realign the size and cost of it. Nevertheless, even with all of these measures, the Canadian government won't be able to pay for all the measures that they've just announced, at least not in the short term. Indeed, by forecasting a gigantic deficit for 2025 and 2026 of $78.3 billion, which represent grossly about 2.5% of Canada's GDP, it is fair to say that this new budget will have a massive impact on all of Canadian households in the near future. While Mark Carney was projected to be a more economical version of Justin Trudeau, we've seen that he hasn't been able to stop the bleeding that has started by his predecessor, notably in 2020, where we can see that the national debt by this period until 2025 has been literally exploding. For comparison, before the coming of the new budget, Canadians were expected to pay between $2,000 and $3,500 per person only in interest payments to cover the total national debt. But this is not over, because with the new additional debt of $78.3 billion that will be added, and knowing the fact that we are currently about 35 million Canadians aged 15 or more, this means that this would add about $2,000 of more of national debt per person to our already pretty high average of about $43,000 per person of national debt that we currently have. If you ask me, this isn't a good news and a good gift that we are giving and that we are creating for the future generation. For comparison, even if we are not the worst country in the G7 when it comes to the total national debt per capita, but when we look at the total national debt per capita with the average household debt, we can see that we are currently the second most debt countries, just behind Japan, with about 222% of debt per person. So I understand the needs of investing for the future, notably in great infrastructure and housing to help the future generation, especially when we know that the GDP has been falling over the past quarter. Well, I think that the people still have bigger needs at the moment than getting more into debt, because at the moment we can see that the household debt is exploding as well, which means that people are just looking to survive at the moment, especially with the rising price of goods over the past couple of years. And it is important to understand that if we continue on this direction and if we continue to increase the total national debt that we have, this will resume in reduced benefits and services, higher interest rates, as well as higher taxes. But the great thing is that there are still hope that if you take your future in your own hands, there are still ways that you can achieve great financial freedom in the long run, notably by investing as much as you can as soon as possible. And so on your side, if you're looking to find what I've been doing personally in my own investing portfolio and what are my different investments in it, well, you can check out the video that's gonna be right over here, and I will see you soon. Peace.